Good morning, children. Grade ninth. Today we will start the topic that is the chapter number 1, fundamental unit of life. Now, fundamental unit of life. What do you understand by this? We will basically study about cell. You know, children, that the cell is called as basic unit of life. Why? Why the cell is called as basic unit of life? Because it performs all the functions. Single cell perform all the functions like intake of food, excretion, metabolism, respiration, and many more. So it is called as fundamental unit of life. Fundamental, it is called as a structural because it is responsible for the structure and it performs various functions. So we will study about cell. This is your lecture 1. So today we will start with the discovery of cell. Okay. So cell is a basic structural and functional biological unit of all the living organisms. Okay. A single cell can perform basic functions. All the functions are performed by a single cell. It is fundamental unit. All the living things are composed of cell. All the living organisms are made up of cell. Maybe if it is unicellular, it's made up of single cell, and if it is multicellular, then it is made up of many cells. Okay. For example, if you can say a cell, the group of similar cells together to perform a specific function, they are called as tissue. Tissue, group of tissues together make an organ, and different organs, work together to perform a particular function. That is your organ system, right? So here you can see that how the cell is, responsible for all the basic functions in your body. The similar cells, they group together to make tissues. These tissues will form different organs. They will work together to make an organ system, and your body have so many organ systems, right? Your body have so many organ systems. You have excretory system, respiratory system, circulatory system, many more. Okay, so this is how the cell is very, very important, right? Now, in this topic today, we will discuss about the discovery of cell. Children, the cell was first discovered by a scientist named Robert Hooke. Here you can see the uh, photo also. Robert Hooke. In 1665, this is a very basic question that usually come in your exam, that who discovered cell. The cell was first discovered by Robert Hooke in 1665. You know, he examined the thin slice of cork. Okay, he took a bark of the tree. He took he took a bark of tree and he studied it under his primitive microscope. Okay, his self-made microscope. He studied that bark of oak, and he saw some hexagonal little compartment that looks like a honeycomb. That looks like a honeycomb. Okay, so he coined the term cell. Cell means cell is derived from the word cellule. Cellule means a little room. So he found a small compartment and he termed he coined the name cell. Okay, so he was Robert Hooke. He was an English scientist and he studied cork, that is the dead cell of oak bark, and he noticed some little hexagonal shaped cell and he coined the term cell. Very, very important. Okay, you can also, when you come back to the school, we will go in the we will go in the lab and we will do this experiment also. Okay, we can peel off the onion and when we stain it with the saffronin, we can also look the cell under microscope, right? So under microscope, if you will see, the cell will look like this. Here you can see these small compartments. As you can, just imagine, a wall. Just imagine a wall made up of brick. Okay, imagine a wall made up of brick in front of you. You will see that these bricks, they will assemble together to make that complete wall. The similar structure you will see, the cell is a brick-like structure that make your you know different organs, or you can say completely an organism. The cell will make complete organism. Just compare the cell with the brick. Okay. So here in this diagram below, you can see that they are arranged together they are arranging like the brick, right? Now, this is the compound microscope and this is the advanced microscope. Robert Hooke has not uh, discovered or have seen the cell of cork in such a microscope. His microscope was primitive. He designed, self-designed his microscope. And this is how the compound microscope looks. Okay. I will show you when we go in the lab. Now, very, very important discovery was done again by Van Leeuwenhoek. Van Leeuwenhoek in 1674. Van Leeuwenhoek in 1674, he discovered the free living cell in the pond. He took a pond water, put it into the slide, put it onto the slide, and he saw it under his primitive microscope. He saw certain free living cells, unicellular, of course, organism he saw, and that was, bacteria and protozoa. He was able to see that in the pond water. So, when Leeuwenhoek in 1674 discovered protozoa, okay, and bacteria in pond water, he called the term, he called it, he called it animalcules. Okay, and he is also called as father of microbiology. It is important, remember the name of the scientist. Okay, he was called as father of microbiology, 1674, right? Now see this, the compound microscope we have seen in the earlier slide. It was invented first by these two scientists. Okay, Hans and Jacqueries. Okay, they invented first so-called, now we are using the compound microscope. They invented first so-called compound microscope in late 16th century, right? Okay, the electron microscope, it is more advanced and it was discovered by Max and Ruska, or you can say Max and Ruska or Ruska, however you pronounce. They invented the electron microscope in 1931. You know, children, when you have to look the things like, if you have to see the structure of cell, you can usually use compound microscope to see. But if you want to see the internal structure of a cell, if you want to really see inside what is there inside the nucleus, what all the small structure, the compound microscope will not help you out, right? So here you can use electron microscope to see, in more clear and detailed form. Okay, so Max and Riska, they invented electron microscope. It looks like this. It is connected with the computer, okay, where you can see the different structure. Now, Robert Brown, very, very important discovery. Robert Brown, 1831. He discovered the nucleus in the cell. You know that the cell is having a nucleus, it is having a cytoplasm, it is having a cell wall or nuclear envelope, it is having plasma membrane, everything, right? So the nucleus is discovered by Robert Brown, discovered by Robert Brown in 1831, right? So he was studying orchids under microscope, and when he observed an opaque area, okay, which he called the areola or nucleus in the flower outer layer, cell of the flower outer layer. Okay, so however, he was not able to coin the term nucleus, whatever, but later on it was French Bohr describe the nucleus later on. So here you can see nucleus, brain of the cell. Here, this is how you can see. Here you can see this is your one single cell, and here in this center you can see the nucleus, right? And this red spot, nucleolus. This is how Robert Brown in 1831 discovered discovered the nucleus. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Very important again, the Dryden and Purkinje. Okay, Purkinje, J.E. Purkinje in 1839, he discovered he discovered protoplasm, protoplasm, and he named it as sarco. What is protoplasm? What is protoplasm? Protoplasm is, how I will explain. You can say protoplasm for the living substances that is present in the cell means cytoplasm plus nucleus. It together make protoplasm, right? So it was J.E. Purkinje in 1839 introduced the term protoplasm, cytoplasm plus nucleus together. Okay, here you can see the photo also. Now, coming on to the very important concept, that is cell theory. Cell theory was proposed by three scientists, the two that is the skeleton, MJ skeleton, T. Swan, okay, and Rudolf Virchow. Uh, Skeleton and Swan in 1838 and 1839, they proposed together and they said that all the living organisms are made up of cells. All the plants, animals, they are made up of, they are composed of cells. So cell is the basic unit of life. He proposed Spalding Swan, okay, in 1838 and 1839. They, 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 they proposed that yes, cell is the basic structural functional unit of all the living organisms. They, 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 they were the first one to tell that all the living organisms, whether it's plants or animals, unicellular or multicellular, all are made up of cells. Okay. Now, one more scientist is there. He was Rodolphe Virchow. Let me write. Rodolphe Virchow. R. Virchow. In 1855, he was the scientist who said that all the cells come from pre-existing cells. Okay, he said that all the cells come from pre-existing cells. The shape and the size of the cell are related to the specific function they perform. Whatever the cell okay, their shape and size is related the basic function they perform. For example, if we'll talk about the nerve cell, you know the nerve cells are long thread-like structure. Why they are so long? Because they have to carry out the messages, okay, from one different organ or one part of the cell to another part. So you can say that the long shape of this nerve cell, okay, is responsible how they can carry out their function well. Each kind of cell organelle perform specific function, right? So the three things that you have to remember, the three things that you have to remember here, yeah, I have made a slide also, that Rodolphe Virchow, he said that all the cell arises from pre-existing cell, and he was known as father of modern pathology and founder of modern medicine. He was the great man. Okay, here you can see the photo also, right? So it was Rodolphe Virchow. Okay, so what are the three things that can be, concluded for the cell theory? What are the three things that can be concluded as a cell theory? Now, first one is that all the cells are made up, all the living organism. I'm writing here, all the living organisms are made up of cells. Made up of cells. First point, skeleton is Kwan, right? Secondly, what Virchow said, all the cells are arises from pre-existing cells, right? The third point, this is the second point of the cell theory, and the third point is the shape and the size of the cell are related to the specific function they performed. Okay, so this completes your basic information about the discovery of self. Thank you so much.